You're listening to the Fezcast, produced on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and featuring the independent thoughts, rants and rambles of Saracens fans and special guests. If you'd like your opinion to be heard on the show, you can find the Fezcast on Facebook or Fezcast_SSA on Instagram and whatever Twitter is known as these days. But for now, enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the next edition of the Fezcast, Season 4, Episode 15, as we work our way up to Christmas. Don't worry, I'm not the only voice you're going to hear this week on the Fezcast, though I've got plenty to say, as normal. But we have got a two-parter for you. In the second part, Duncan is going to join me and we're going to discuss Saracens down in Pretoria at the Loftus Versfeld at altitude and their game in the Champions Cup. But before that, we've got a big interview and I'm going to be joined by Jo, who's going to be talking with me and I think probably one of the signings, if not the signing, of the year and season. Player of the month for last month as well. 33 carries, 231 metres carried, 13 tackles made, 9 tackle breaks, 4 line breaks. We're going to be joined by Sophie Bridger and that's coming up next. So we'll have a word from one of our sponsors and then it'll be me and Jo talking to Sophie.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, as I said in my introduction, part one, the main part of our chat is with the player on the women's side, at least for definite, one of the signings of the season, not just at our club, but across the league, I think. Joining us, the player of the month, the Lucas A player of the month for last month with some ridiculous figures. Sophie Bridger has joined us. Welcome to the Fezcast, Sophie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, very well.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joe's seen more of you live on the field than I have, but yeah, I alluded to those figures. I mean, it's 231 metres carried, 13 tackles made, 9 tackle breaks. You've had a hell of a start to your career at Saracens, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a good start. I don't think you can ask for a start like that. I think I'm quite lucky that that's kind of happened. I didn't really know those figures either a little bit, so I try not to pay too much attention to it, obviously. But no, it's really good. I've loved every moment of it so far. So, three games in, it's good start.
Well, I suppose it's great to get that positive feedback, particularly coming to a new club. And I just read the coach's comments about how you've settled into life at Saracens incredibly well. And it's been evident in your performances. You've displayed quality and the influence you can have on games. And the most exciting bit is where the game has the potential to go. Was that part of your decision to come to Saracens, given that you came from the championship winning side from last season to join Saracens?
Yeah, exactly. I think I was ready for a change. I've been in Gloucester for so long. I went there for college and uni as well. So I was just ready for a change, really. And I know that obviously Saris and Alex can push me to be even better, and being in that new environment really challenges you that little bit more, and playing with different people, different coaches. So I wanted to to change it up, and Sarries was a real good choice for me. Definitely paid off. I'm really glad that, you know, this is where I've come and I've settled in on the pitch, off the pitch with all the girls and the coaches. So it's been really nice. But yeah, loved every moment of it so far, and I know that Sarries can take me that extra level.
Brilliant, excellent. Jo, do you want to come in there and have a word?
Yeah, I've obviously seen you play on the field and kicking, running, tackling. I'm not sure there's anything that you can't do, actually. It's very awesome. We're very lucky to have you in the squad. In terms of, Jez covered it a little bit there. You know, you've had a brilliant career so far, winning the Bucks Championship, then the Alliance 15s, and now you're with Sarries. What aspirations have you got for this season? And I should also say you've had an England cap as well, which I think you got your debut at StoneX. I mean, it's like fate, isn't it?
I did. So I debuted at StoneX before I got my debut for Sarries at StoneX.
So what's your aspiration? Now you're with the Sarries team. Where do you want to sort of take things, and, you know, both club and internationally?
Well, with Sarries and things, kind of the obvious, like, I want to get us back champions, push us back to that number one spot that we should be in. And I think it's quite nice coming from an outsider's perspective, and seeing kind of what we can do and what we can change to get there. But, you know, everyone's pretty switched on to that and bought in and to that aim. And obviously that is our long-term aim. I think the first short term was start well, which we've done, and that will be to kick off, finish well into Christmas. So like bit by bit, split the season up. But yeah, top aim, obviously we want to be winning that trophy this year. And then, you know, Sarries is a great place to be. It's always going to push me harder. So would be internationally would be to get a few more caps in Six Nations, and get that bit of international experience, a bit more game time there as well, because, you know, it is so different, in a good way, but it is very different. So yeah, just pushing on into that and getting used to it.
I'm going to come up with bring up something there, though. I mean, obviously you've come from the championship side from last season to join Saracens. I mean, you get on well with all the girls, obviously, but was there a little bit of a kind of like you can walk in, giving it a little bit of I'm not saying the Billy big bits, but I mean you know, you're from the reigning champions. Was there a bit of banter, shall we say? And likewise, I mean, are you looking forward to playing your old club going forward? And is it one of those ones, you know, you sometimes see it, don't you, where you get players go back to clubs and it's like they won't celebrate scoring, or some that they will celebrate scoring. How are your feelings, one, coming into Saracens from the championship winning club? Was there a bit of banter, or was it pretty made obvious that, you know, you're a Saracen now, and, you know, as I say, going forward, you're looking forward to that game against your old team?
No, I didn't mention it too much. I think it's not, so coming into Sarries as well with the wins under their belt, I thought it's not something I really want to mention. So I kind of just cracked on and decided, like, really embrace becoming a Sarries girl, because, you know, that's what it's all about. Like, it's great I've done that, but, you know, I'm with this team now, I'm bought into that. So yeah, I just kind of ignored that one and moved on. Yeah, when we play Goss now, I think it'll be really exciting. I'm actually quite excited to play them. I don't think I've really played against many of those girls because kind of grown up with them. So I really enjoy playing against them. I know that they're probably going to be equally as excited to play against me, and I think it'll be a good day. But at the end of the day, they're still all my friends. So we'll play what we need to on the pitch, and it'll be Sarries versus Gloucester. But afterwards, you know, we'll be friends again. So no hard feelings either way, I'm sure.
Well, that's good to hear. That is,
and it's good that you've managed to get. You mentioned settling in with the girls here. I know that Fee McIntosh is a close friend of yours. You're going to have to explain the social media posts around Crazy Golf. So clearly, the two of you, Crazy Golf Mania. What What is it? Is it everywhere you go, you've got to play a game of crazy golf?
Yeah, I started off quite like just innocent, really. Like it just seemed to be every time I would come to kind of London to see Fee, like when I was obviously still back in Gloucester, we would just end up going and doing crazy golf because I really enjoyed it. I don't know why that was the thing. I guess there's quite a few around London, and now we decide that is what we do everywhere we go, really, because we both love doing it. So yeah, we just ended up in Cardiff on Sunday. It was a bit raining, so we just thought, let's go have a game of crazy golf. So yeah, it's something that we do, but I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan. So.
Two big questions there coming out of that. Sorry, one.
Is it competitive?
I was going to say, is it competitive? Who's leading? And two, what's the best crazy golf course in the country?
It depends. It depends if depends what we're doing as well. But it is sometimes. Well, to be honest, I started off not that competitive at it because I would want to do the trick shots and mess around. And now Fee gives it all of that about how she always wins, but that's because I'm messing around. So I've started taking it a little bit more seriously now. But unfortunately, I didn't win at the weekend. I don't want to say, that there was something going on there, but no. But yeah, no. And the best one, God, we've done so many. Best one's definitely Putt Shack.
Right.
I don't know if you've been. That is one of the best ones.
Well, it sounds like there might be the potential for a challenge here. I'll have to see about getting a couple of the men's team, perhaps, and a Fezcast team, and we'll challenge you and Fee to like a Ryder Cup of crazy golf, maybe.
Yeah, I back us together.
All fighting talkers. I mean, we're talking about good times and everything there as well, and the fun side of rugby. Of course, I mean, we're recording this now in the build up to Christmas, and you got two games coming up before Christmas. We had about the same time last year, I had Christian Judge on from the men's team and talking about Christmas, and for him, his family were down in the West Country, and the games were coming thick and fast. I mean, how do you get to celebrate Christmas within the Saracens women team? Bearing in mind you've got the game against Tigers this weekend, and then you've got a game on the 23rd, and then a little break until the 6th of January. I mean, do you get a chance to go away at Christmas, go back to the family?
Yeah.
Eat some figgy pudding and whatever?
Yeah, it's actually been quite funny because there's been half the team that want the Christmas music in November and half the team that refused to have it until the 1st of December. I was definitely the November team. But now we're allowed it. Now we've got it on the tunes. So I guess that's always quite fun as well. And we kind of just had our little Christmas social this past weekend in our bye week with no rugby. And then, yeah, I guess we'll just build into it and get more festive maybe as it goes on, but obviously rugby first. But we get time off over Christmas and New Year as well. So yeah, get to go see the family and have a bit of a breakaway.
I guess that means that everybody on your team now has been Whamageddons as well, I suppose.
Has been what, sorry?
Whamageddons. You've heard Last Christmas, have you?
Right.
We got done in Sainsbury's on the second day of it. So at the start of 1st of December, you go as long as you can without hearing Wham doing Last Christmas. And if you get out.
So I'm not complaining. I'd have it 24/7 if I could, Christmas music.
Well, fair dues. Well, look, let's get back to the playing. I know Joe's picked up a question. I'm going to start it off with talking about another player at the club. And then I know Joe's going to ask you a positional question straight after. But you've come in, got Zoe come back and then gets a game ban for a bit of a naughty tug of the hair. But Amelia's come in and played superbly inside you at 10, hasn't she? I mean, I had a great game on the weekend.
Yeah, great young talent. It's really nice to see her kind of step into her own a little bit. Obviously, I wasn't really around in Cup, but I obviously saw what she did, and it's really great to see that she's carried that on into Prem and to bring that confidence with her as well. And it's lovely to be able to play with her and kind of you'll remember being kind of that age, and like playing in the Prem can be scary at that time. So I've really loved playing with her.
I suppose the follow on up before Jo asks the question I know she wants to ask, how are you feeling now about being that player? I mean, you're not at the end of your career by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you're not far out of that early part of your career. You're still developing, as you say. You've got aspirations to get more and more England caps and everything like that. But having that ability to be outside a young player and impart your wisdom upon them, I mean, how good is that for you and in your development as a player as well?
Yeah, equally as good. I think it's all about, well, when I was younger, it was just I like players around me giving that little chat that they can and help building that confidence. But yeah, I mean, Amelia's real confident already in what she does, and you can see that on the pitch and what she executes. So no, it's really nice being able to kind of, give that kind of knowledge. And then also I'm learning so much from everyone else as well, which is also really nice.
Brilliant. And over to you, Jo.
So we've talked about your kicking and your tackling and you're running around the pitch all over the place now. So you've played fly half, you've played centre. Have you got a favourite that you prefer out of the two, or am I leading you towards Alex going, oh, I wonder if she wants that? Or have you got aspirations to play somewhere completely different?
No.
Because I'm sure you could probably play anywhere if you wanted to.
Keep me out that scrum. God,
oh,
no.
Yeah.
Best place on the field, Sophie. But there you go. I won't mention my old position. I get too much trouble for that.
No, I prefer a centre, and I mean Alex knows that I prefer centre, of course. Yeah, you're good where you are, and yeah, I like being in the centres. One out is a bit more of perspective, and it's nice.
Does it help though having the ability to play more than one position, given as well, salary caps, we see it more with the men's game and everything, smaller squads maybe. If you've got more than one string to your bow, it kind of makes you a bit more valuable to the team perhaps.
I mean, it definitely helps your own perspective on the game. Being, playing 10 before, when you're then 12, you're still that little bit of a playmaker, but you're one out. So then you've got a completely different perspective. And then, further down the line, like even speaking to like the wingers and fullbacks, the perspective is all so different and everyone sees a different picture. So it's definitely really interesting getting experience in all of those, maybe only like once, but it's definitely helped me be able to kind of see all the options, discuss those options, be very open-minded with the rest of the girls, and understand kind of what they're seeing and then them understanding me.
I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think we've seen it over the last 12 months with Jess coming in, probably known very much as a winger when she played for Quins, and Sarries have played her quite a lot at fullback, and she showed her immense skill and pace there. And you're absolutely right. I think the flexibility that you've got in the squad, not just in the backs, but the back row in the scrum, which I know Jez will have a mass passion for, as do I, as previous eights. The flexibility that you've got across the squad there is really amazing to see how Alex uses it. And it must be a tough choice for Alex every week about who's starting in that 23. But moving to Leicester Tigers at the weekend, is there anything particular that you the squad are kind of working on to try and that new team into the Prem this season? How much awareness have you got of them? Have you seen any of their games that have been on the TV and such like?
Yeah, I think a new team in the Prem is always dangerous. Like they're coming to make a statement. They will definitely come for us, and we definitely cannot underestimate Leicester. They've got a great team. I think they play some really nice rugby so far, and you can see the potential with that. So it's just going to be going in, kind of continuing to do what we do best, focus on us, and go into that game full steam ahead. And see what they can bring. But I think it'll be really interesting, and it's great to see. Well, just in general, it's great to see like new teams into the Prem, and that around the country that's growing. So no, I'm excited actually to play against them, and yeah, just see what they can bring.
So it's been an interesting week for Leicester, hasn't it? With former Saracens women Rocky Clark being there on the coaching staff and then stepping down to develop her media career, which she's very, very good at and everything like that. The question I'm going to ask, though, is, obviously you'll have sat down with Alex and the coaching team. Got a couple of new guys in the team as well. And I suppose, have you all sat down, had a look at what the season had brought so far? What's the brief headlines on the review of what's gone on so far with the team?
Yeah, it's been kind of building every week, and we've had a good start, but we've got so much more in us and a lot more to go. But it's really exciting, and the new girls that have come in have brought that kind of added energy and new ideas, and the girls that are already here are hungry for more success this year after last season. So it's all like positive things, and then just really kicking on now into these next 2 games, and we know that we've got a lot more in us, and we're only going to get better as the season goes on as we play more together and gel a lot more.
Well, it's fantastic from what I've seen so far. I've had the chance. Well, I was coming to the game a couple of weeks ago. The car was one of we managed to the car break down on the M40, which was a bit of a nightmare. But we'll try and get to a game very soon. But yeah, from what we've seen, we are highly impressed, and I think the truth of the matter is, and which is something that obviously we alluded to at the start, you haven't experienced that last year because you were in the championship winning side, but it's how teams come back from disappointment that really does mark them out as a great team. And disappointment is not something that Saracens women have had in the past particularly much. So to see you guys coming back stronger, more determined, more hungry, more committed even than possibly were before, which is a daft thing to say because you always look at Saracens women as being the most committed team out there. But it's all credit to yourself, to the coaching staff. And I know how much last season hurt, having interviewed Alex at the SSA AGM, how much it is a driver to get back our trophy, as it were. All we can say, I think, from the Fezcast is thank you for what you've done so far. You've settled in brilliantly, and you are a total superstar in that team. But the team, we're 100% behind you, as I'm sure you appreciate. But we'll just pass on our best regards to you, and also our Christmas wishes to all of you guys on the team, and looking forward to a couple of good wins going into that festive season, Sophie.
Oh yeah, well, thank you very much. The fans at Sarries is something I haven't quite experienced before, and it's great. It is really great, and it really gets you going. So it's nice to know that everyone's behind us and really fighting for us this season. And you won't be disappointed, that's for sure.
Well, absolutely.
And one more game at home before the Christmas break. 23rd of December, Bristol Bears, Christmas cracker, 12:30 kickoff. If you wanted to say anything to our listeners in terms of never been to a women's rugby game before, what would you say to them, apart from I will say, get your backsides down to the Stone X on the 23rd of December to go and watch the girls play? Be a cracking game.
Going to be a really, really good game. And I just think if you want to see some good rugby, some good competitive physical rugby, both sides are. It's just before Christmas, you might as well. You've got nothing else to do. 12:30 kickoff means that you can do something after anyway. So get yourselves down. Come see some good rugby. Because you really won't be disappointed. I think that one's going to be a real good one.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Sophie, and people get behind the team. They deserve every bit of support we can give them, and I tell you, you will not be disappointed. But Sophie, thank you ever so much for your time, for joining us on the Fezcast. I'm sure we will get opportunity to speak to you again during the season and everything. We might even let Matt loose on you at the ground sometime with his little mobile phone microphone. But thank you for joining us, and all the best from us on the Fezcast.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hi, Alex Osterbury here, Director of Rugby for Saracens Women. You're listening to the Saracens Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, following that great interview with Sophie, really enjoyed that, and Jo. Time now to move on to the men's game and the first game in the Champions Cup. And joining me for part two is Duncan to discuss the weekend's game down in Pretoria at high altitude on Loftus Versfeld. How are you doing, first of all, Duncan? You well?
I'm very well, thanks, Jez. Listening to you, having been stuck into the whiskey, I gather.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is Christmas, and I am trying to get rid of the bottles before I get more bottles of Christmas presents, obviously. But, as Sir Nodwood of Wolverhampton would say, it's Christmas, so let's crack into it. And actually...
Creating cupboard space, that's the first time I've heard that one for having some drink.
Well, I mean, any excuse, isn't it? I'm working from home tomorrow, so I don't have to drive anywhere, so hey. But, yeah, no, the game on the weekends. On the face of it, a defeat. A not unexpected defeat. Not many teams will go to Pretoria and win. We know that for a fact. But actually, in the cold light of day, not as bad as a result as, well, at one point in the first half as it possibly could have been.
No. I think if there was one thing that made the difference, it was their back three, was it? Who were just exceptional. The speed of them, just fantastic. And if they hadn't committed... was it 3 errors, 3 disallowed tries, which are pretty much down to their errors? I think it was 2 forward passes and 1 foot in touch. It would have been well away from us, the game.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, David Creel's going to have nightmares about those 2 forward passes, isn't he? I mean, for a centre not being able to pass off with one hand is pretty poor, really.
And they weren't really difficult passes, were they?
No. I mean, players had overrun. I mean, the first one, Aaron Z had just got ahead of him and everything, but then, it's inaccuracies, isn't it? And I think that is the thing that I think we can take from that game on both sides, is that there were moments when both teams were hugely inaccurate, and that cost them in both cases.
There's one passage in the last half hour, which is extraordinary, wasn't it? Going back and forwards with both teams coughing it up. I mean, apart from 1 or maybe 2 demolished scrums, we were pretty much parity in the scrum and the maul, I thought. Their forwards did have a lot of power going forward, but then you'd expect that, wouldn't you? But it wasn't extraordinary.
No.
And we defended pretty well against that.
Yeah, I think we did, actually. I mean, there were a couple of cynical ones. I mean, we'll talk about the red card for Bailey in a little while, but the 2 yellows, I mean, Murrow, he had no option. He committed a cynical foul. It was a yellow card, but, it gained a bit of time before Bulls scored a try. Goody's, to this day, I can't see how that was a yellow, and I'll argue that one until the cows come home. All he did, as they said on commentary, was turned his back and braced for impact. He had nowhere to go. He didn't appreciably change direction. And the lad coming through, I think it was Aaron Z again, didn't he? He made absolutely certain that he ran into Goody when he could have run round him and he would have scored the try. So, I mean, he bought one there, bought a yellow card. But, as you say, Bulls didn't make the most of that, did they?
Well, I had a look at that Alex Good one a couple of more times today, and you're absolutely right. He sees a man bearing down on him, and he just turns so that the man runs into his shoulder and doesn't run into his front, which is going to be way more painful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, it wasn't a yellow card.
Right.
Definitely not.
I mean, and I think, we've got to take into account in that performance by Saracens is the fact that, the Champions Cup, I really don't like the fact that the South African teams are in it. I could understand why, maybe, but it's just completely impractical on so many reasons that Saracens, at the end of the day, were expected, after playing a game in Arctic conditions almost against Northampton, to go down to Pretoria to 25 degrees sunshine, which is lovely, get some warm weather training in. They play that game and then they're coming back again to play Connaught on the weekends in likelihood that it's going to be pretty brutally cold weather. It's just, one, impractical. The environmental impact of flying staff and fans all the way down to South Africa to play a game and then come back is just blows my mind. And you know, at the end of the day, you go to balls, it's a pretty unfair, it's a one game you're playing in an entire season of 20, 30 games that you play in totally different environment than you'll play every other game. And it just seems completely unfair to me.
I have very mixed feelings about it. I mean, just stepping back for 1 second, there's the whole question of tiredness, which, we discussed last time. And I wonder for how much longer Nick Tompkins, for example, can carry on doing his Duracell bunny impression. Having come back, had a pretty tough World Cup. In terms of South Africa, the only time I went for work once to Johannesburg, and I went for the weekend. And because it was work, I went up the sharp end of the plane. It's an overnight flight. There's only 2 hours difference. I flew there on the Friday, came back on Sunday, and felt like I'd had a rest. Because it's overnight, you're up the sharp end of the plane, you're sleeping both ways, and there's no jet lag. And despite the fact that I had quite a lot of vodka while I was there, I came back feeling very refreshed. I don't know. I'm about 4'0". I don't know whether the same applies to Mara Itoje and Billy Vunipola, who are a lot bigger than me and maybe can't sleep as well in a British Airways business class seat. I don't know, but it is going to be interesting. In terms of, as I say, I have mixed feelings because on the one hand, you always need something different, and it is different to go to South Africa and play a really top team over there. It is at altitude, so we're, it's always going to be difficult. I think possibly that more than the travelling, as I say, if they manage to sleep on the plane. Compare and contrast, because they have to come here via Dubai or Qatar or somewhere. So they put out a second team against, the Stormers put out a second team against Leicester because they face, is it Leinster or Munster next week at home? So, and that'll be, those South African teams have to get 5 points at home every time. So the impracticalities of it are probably eventually going to put paid to it. It just depends whether they manage to carry on doing it in the URC, where it is a little bit of a joke that everybody gets beaten badly in South Africa, and they always, the South African teams always lose in Europe because they send the second team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? And also, I mean, that obviously is something, sending the second team down to South Africa is not a luxury that teams working under constrained salary cap have. I mean, if you're Leinster, you probably can do. You can afford to do that. If you're Toulon or Toulouse or Racing, you can do that. But if you're an English team, the team you're sending down there is pretty much your first team. You aren't resting players, as you say. Nick Tompkins is a player who I didn't think, I'm not going to say covered himself in glory, because he does every time he puts on a Saracens shirt. He always performs, gives 100%. But as you say, his 100% in this game was nowhere near the 100% he would have been given 5 games ago, purely because the poor lad shaggered.
Yeah, I mean, he still played well, as you say, but, it's not that, it's not the Nick Tompkins of the World Cup. The thing about this competition is bonus points make a difference as to whether you go through or not. And we obviously gave a shot at probably, would have been happy with the losing bonus point. We did stop the Bulls getting the bonus point, and we'll come on to the last half hour to discuss that, because it was quite incredible, really. It's significant that Bristol and Lyon, between them, shared 7 points in our group.
Yeah.
Bordeaux got 5. It puts the pressure on us this Saturday against Connaught. We need 5 there, and we probably need to stop Lyon getting a bonus point when they come as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Duncan. I mean, the thing is, what I will say is that many teams will go down to the Bulls, like we did, and in that position and in everything that went against us. I mean, bearing in mind, we played 50 minutes of that game with 14 players on the pitch. Many teams, and I would say 9 out of 10 teams, would have capitulated under those circumstances. And as we were saying on WhatsApp, we were expecting that to be 50 points after half time. We expected that, us to put the effort in, but with 10 minutes to go, the gas to run out, big style, fumes run out, and us to ship points. And we didn't. And I think that's huge credit to the team that no other team, particularly no other English team, would be able to have done that, I don't think.
Well, the incredible thing is this. In the last 30 minutes, at altitude, with 14 men, when the Bulls would have been pressing for their bonus point, we won it 10-0.
Yeah.
That last half hour, which is an amazing... And that's when we played our good rugby. Theo Dan was bursting through. There was great back play. A couple of fantastic finishes from Elliot Daly and Theo McFarland. Really top draw finishes. And we really bossed that last half an hour.
Absolutely. Well, this is the interesting thing. I'm going to make a point now, though, Duncan, and see what you think about it. The players that impressed and the players that have been impressing over the last few weeks are not the old heads. Now, whether we look at someone like Jamie George, or we look at Billy Vunipola, or we look at Alex Good, and expect them, our expectation of them is somewhere up there. But these are lads are getting older and their games are changing. And it was mentioned in commentary, the amount of players we got now over the age of 30. And you get over that age and there's a cliff that is advancing very rapidly. And you see it with those players. Johnny Sexton fell off a cliff in the World Cup quarter-final against New Zealand at 38 years old. And identifying when those players are going to drop off of a cliff. We've seen Owen Farrell's kicking from the tee hasn't been great, although I think kicking in altitude with very little practice at altitude with the dog zone abuse he was getting again from the spectators there, we can credit him there. And I think his other all-round play outside has been excellent. But Jamie George has started missing the odd line-out throw. Really,
as I say, with Jamie George and others, they haven't really had a proper break. And Owen, I believe that the match, which one did he miss? It was against Northampton, was it? When we descend into this aimless kicking without Owen there. But we're quite a divided team because we've got those old heads, and I think many of them are still, doing fantastically well. And then the rest of the team is really quite young, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think having those,
Dan, etc.
Yeah, having those older heads, having Jamie George around Theo Dan is only making Theo Dan a better player. Having Nick Tompkins and Ollie Hartley working together is being great. Sean Maitland, you can see Tom Parton's learning from Sean Maitland, whatever it may be. That's not such a problem. It's just, can we rely on those older guys as much as perhaps we did 2-3 seasons ago? And that's the question I have there. I do still think Owen Farrell kept us in that game for long periods with some very, just not so much the play, but just turning around and saying, and particularly when Billy got sent off, just galvanising the team and saying, look, we're going to perform. If we go down by 50 points, we go down by 50 points, but we're going to make them work bloody hard to get those points. And I think made them work too hard.
I think we're half the team without Owen. The whole tactics and everything just doesn't work without him at the moment. We talked about, what are England going to do? We're seeing a very managed evolution in the team. I think, the next couple of years is going to see it become markedly younger.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think, if we're going to talk about England very briefly, the youngsters are coming through. And I mean, the other player we are missing hugely at the moment is Ben Earl.
Tom Willis as well.
And Tom Willis, And let's talk Billy Vunipola. I mean, Billy isn't the player he was. He definitely is. His power is on its wane, and I don't subscribe to this view that he's sending off, which was a sending off. It was a red card. There's no two ways about it. But we talk about, you're 60 minutes into a game when you've had to work bloody hard to stay in the game, which they had done. And Billy, he'd made his hits. He got there, he'd made his turnovers, he'd made his runs without perhaps having the impact he would have had 3, 4, 5 years ago. Those things happen at that stage of games, particularly when you're playing at altitude, when all the life has been sucked out of you. So I can't criticise him for that red card. It could have happened to anybody. I will criticise the referee who consistently didn't penalise the Bulls for going past the rock off their feet at any number of occasions, which is all that Billy did. The only difference with Billy was that he unfortunately caught a glancing blow, which was made the most of again by the Bulls player, in that contact. But there could have been 840 penalties before that against Bulls, which weren't pulled up. And that's what annoyed me, was that consistency, Duncan.
Well, I think that, I mentioned this before, when it comes to these big beasts, and the Bulls at home are up there with Leinster and La Rochelle and the rest of them, we'll be competitive if and when we have a near full complement. Because the difference is that, Billy could have been, you could have brought on another number 8 at the 50th minute, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Billy's going helter-skelter. At the moment, he's playing the whole game, and I understand why, and that's the right decision. But if he knows he's coming off at minute 50, he's got a bit more power for that first 50 minutes, isn't he? And then whether it's Tom Willis or Ben Earl or whoever or Gonzalez or whoever going to number 8, then it's a different kettle of fish. But talking of not England but English rugby, the thing that was great was that overall it was a brilliant weekend for the Premiership. There was unbelievable wins. I mean, we mentioned Bristol pipping Leon at the death, but in particular, you've got to take your hats off to Exeter and Quins.
Well, yeah, Exeter. I didn't watch the Quins game. I watched the Exeter game. I will say there's an element that Toulon will be sat there, and I don't think the referee would have been bought many pastisses in the Toulon bars afterwards. I certainly felt that he's refereeing favoured Exeter more than it did Toulon, but then the emphasis there is on the players to work that out and deal with it and play the correct thing. But Exeter Chiefs found a way, and with a very young side and a very inexperienced side. Henry Slade played himself back into an England Six Nations shirt, especially with Owen Farrell. His leadership on the field and his way that he directed play, albeit him doing it from centre as opposed to fly half. If he, Six Nations, I'm picking him at the moment.
Well, it is interesting because Quins Racing was a fantastic game in the Rock Stadium. That is that Racing Stadium, which is extraordinary, very Marmite. When I went to see us play there, I loved it, but some of the mates I went with hated it. But as Stuart Lancaster said, very ruefully, because they tried to get Marcus Smith to go there, that place is with no wind is absolutely set up for Marcus Smith, and he had an amazing game, which maybe, again, subconsciously is driven by the fact that he's in a competition with George Ford and maybe Henry Slade for the number 10 shirt.
Yeah, and I wouldn't discount Finn Smith either from Northampton. Now, I think this is the thing, though, isn't it? And I'm going to bring this back as we finish this chat to Owen Farrell, who did take an immense amount of unwarranted abuse, but it's a sign of a great player that he does get that sort of abuse. And booing him is water off a duck's back to him. That's not why he's stepped back from international duty. It's the other side of it. And, it's not needed. It's not nice. But, they've recognised, the Bulls supporters have recognised Owen Farrell as the danger man and have tried to put him off the game. He's not going to be playing for England. Every single Saracens fan I know in the world will probably turn around and say they don't think Marcus Smith is perhaps the right man. But if Marcus Smith pulls on that England 10 shirt, we're behind him.
Yeah.
Or if
if he can play like he did on Sunday, we'll all be really pleased.
And absolutely, and fair dues to him. And if that means it's the end of Owen Farrell's England career, which I don't think it will be, but if it is, it is. That's the way it goes. That's the nature of the beast. And fair dues. When he pulls on an England shirt, he's an England player, and we get behind him. And that's what we ask England fans to give Owen Farrell. If Owen Farrell comes back in, give him that same support that we would give. Or if it's George Ford, we'll support George Ford because he's playing for England. And you're right. I mean, Owen Farrell's England career shouldn't be over. But if Marcus Smith steps up and does what he does well in every game, then why not support him?
The thing with Owen is, it's like we were talking earlier, when he's not on the field for us, we're missing an on-field coach.
Yeah.
And there isn't, I don't think George Ford or Marcus Smith are in that category. And that's why he's been so valued by England managers for so long.
Yeah, especially considering, as much as I've been a critic of Ben Young as a player, this Six Nations, you're going into that Six Nations potentially with three, not unexperienced scrum halves, but if it's up to me, I'm picking Ben Spencer, Alex Mitchell, and the lad from Bristol Bears at scrum half. And between them, they've probably got 20 caps. It's
Ben
not
Spencer is looking so good this season. And that's because of who's surrounding him now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and good luck to the lad. I think he's worked hard. He's had a few knocks, and he's doing what he has to do to get Steve Borthwick on his side. But let's just finish this off. Connaught coming up on the weekend, Duncan. You say 5 points is a absolute necessity, isn't it? They had a humbling at home by Bordeaux, which was surprising because Connaught have been good this year. How do you see it going, and what do you want to see on?
Well, they got hammered by Bordeaux, isn't it? It's four teams out of a pool of 6 who go forward, I believe.
Yeah.
And you look at all the teams bar Connaught. Well, you'd say Connaught and us have got the uphill struggle at the moment, especially with Leon getting 2 away bonus points. And that's why I say I think we need a 5-pointer.
Yeah, absolutely. I also am pretty confident that we'll get a 5-pointer. There's a couple of people coming back. Bailey's out. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a rejig because he'll be banned. There'll be a bit of a rejig around in the back row. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Not entirely certain. We'll wait and see. But I saw enough from a few players, Theo McFarland in particular, who I thought made a big difference coming on. Youngsters, interesting that we signed the wild man of the Pacific Islands there as prop cover, which I think is an excellent move because prop is the one position. I mean, Mako looks absolutely shattered on Saturday. I mean, he always looks half knackered. I expect he looks half knackered walking around Waitrose on a Monday morning doing the weekly shop. But I mean, yeah, he looked absolutely knackered on weekend, didn't he?
Well, we need, as you say, he always does. We need Matt here to tell us how long Ronnie Mao is out for, which is possibly why we've signed the big man whose name I can never remember. But it'd be fun to see him anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, well, that's coming up this weekend, Duncan. Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to be down there, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't make it, I'm afraid. I'll be watching from home. Matt's going to be in lead presenter duty next week. And then after Christmas, we've got something special that you've done, haven't we, Duncan? We won't tell everybody who it is, but you'll just say,
it'll surprise a few people, I think, the way that it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something very, very much to look forward to that coming up as well. But we'll sign off here and say thank you, everybody, for listening in. We'll be back next week, what day ever it is. It'll be the 20th. That'll be just before Christmas. And then your big interview will be going out on the 27th. So plenty to look forward to on the Fezcast. And thank you again to Duncan for joining me, Joe, and obviously Sophie Bridger for her interview on this week's Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.